So this week, Ukraine and the US and Russia are coming together to meet in Saudi Arabia. Within this context, it has to be said that there is no pretense whatsoever that the US is acting as any kind of honest broker. No question of it being free from partiality in any way. It is very clear that they are taking one side in this negotiation.
Well, I think we need to sort of use different language to describe what's going on. This is not a negotiation that's taking place in Riyadh. This is I would say, an extortion attempt by the United States for Ukraine to capitulate on a number of different issues. There has been no indication whatsoever of Russia making any kind of compromises, making any steps towards peace. Nor has there been any kind of demand from the U.S. government, from Donald Trump, on Putin to negotiate, to give up anything, to make peace. And so what we're watching right now is sort of a continued berating, hitting over the head in figurative terms of Zelensky and of Ukraine, as softening up the ground, if you will, to try to push Ukraine into a surrender. And so I think it's really important to put that on the table right at the outset. There isn't a peace negotiation going on. There's nothing happening. There is no negotiation. Russia has not indicated in any way, shape, or form any plans to compromise at all. And it's important that we understand that. Everyone's focusing on what's being demanded of Ukraine. Until we start focusing on what's being demanded of Russia, none of this matters or makes any sense. It's just a gang up on the victim of this war.
Now, Trump gave a bit of a glimpse of hope at the weekend when he put out a post on Truth Social saying that if Russia doesn't stop bombarding Ukraine, because it is doing that every day, it's bombing Ukrainian cities and the capital almost every day. If Russia doesn't stop doing that, then he might increase banking sanctions against them to try to stop and reduce their aggression. But first of all, the banking sanctions have already been in place for some time, so there really is nothing else he can do there, so it's a hollow threat. And secondly, as soon as he was asked about it, just a couple of hours later in the Oval Office, he just said, well, Russia isn't really the problem. I can understand what they're doing. They're doing what anybody else would do. Although I'm surprised to hear that anybody else would engage in mass murder of civilians in cities across a country, a neighbouring country. I'm surprised that's what anybody else would do. But anyway, he says that's what anybody else would do, so he doesn't have a problem with it, and it's Ukraine that is his main problem. So he almost completely walked back any hope that might have existed for anyone that the US might be an honest broker in a position to chair these meetings. Clearly, they are not. Now, NBC reported over the weekend that the White House is apparently preparing to put some severe pressure on Ukraine and say to them that unless you agree to an immediate ceasefire and to ceasing to defend yourselves, we're going to withdraw all military aid from Ukraine, which is already happening. And on top of that, we'll stop Starlink and any other support you get at all. Under that duress, Ukraine might be forced to capitulate at that point and asking nothing from Russia. So it's just a one-sided bullying, really, that Ukraine needs to stop everything and allow a ceasefire to occur. Now, Ukraine, of course, will counter by saying that it wants security guarantees. Now, in between 2014 and 2022, Vladimir Putin signed a total of 20 agreements, signed agreements to promise that he would not further incur onto Ukrainian territory. He would not further his aggression and invasion of Ukraine. 20 different agreements, and each of those agreements he broke completely. So Ukraine has very good reason to not believe any agreement made by Putin, to not then continue his invasion at a later date. So they want security guarantees. They want European and Western troops to be placed in Ukraine as a bulwark, as a buffer to prevent Russia then pushing on forward again at a future date. Now, America may not even agree to that. They may try to push Ukraine to have an agreement without any kind of security guarantees, just based on the threat that they're not going to do anything to support Ukraine going forward. If that happens, then Ukraine will literally be put under the gun to make an agreement. But they're very able to turn around and say no to that. Actually, you know what? We're going to continue to fight to defend our territory. Whether you support us or not, we are going to continue to do it. This is where the European position becomes crucial, because the Europeans have already made a commitment that they're going to come in and put troops into Ukraine to support Ukraine as a kind of buffer zone, as a backstop against future aggression by Russia. The problem with that is that it's going to take some time. Europe can't just rustle up troops within a space of weeks to put in place and defend Ukraine. This means that Russia has a narrow window, a window in which a ceasefire might be agreed under duress by Ukraine, and in which Russia could then form a pretext to break the ceasefire and push forward. Now, what they'll certainly do is take some time to regroup, because they're losing men at a huge rate. They're losing arms at a huge rate. So they might take some time to regroup, but they might then try to push forward before any European troops arise, and they'll do that under a pretext. They'll say, well, we agreed to the ceasefire under Donald Trump's great leadership, and we are very happy and supportive of his, but Ukraine did ... They'll make up some story. They'll say that they are killing some ethnic Russians in Ukraine, or that they have broken the ceasefire themselves. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. Of course, it won't be true. They used a pretext on every single occasion in the past for invasion. They'll do the same again. And this time the difference is that it will be trumpeted by the White House. It will be put on a loudspeaker by the White House, who will agree with Russia, who will tout Russia's line and say, yes, Ukraine are the ones who have broken the agreement. So it's perfectly within Russia's right now to push on forward, and then that they will. That is, I think, what is not only likely to happen, but what is being planned for by Russia and its new ally, America, right now. Forcing Ukraine to agree to any kind of ceasefire, to give Russia a bit of time to regroup, and then enable them to push forward on another occasion, and Trump will absolve himself of any blame by buying into the pretext and allowing it to happen, all before any European defense can take place. I hope European leaders and capitals know this, are realizing this, and can try and do something to at least provide a rapid backstop before any ceasefire takes place. But if it isn't there, if it's a promise of security guarantees rather than actual security guarantees being in place before the ceasefire, then Ukraine will be left naked, and Russian aggression will be allowed to continue, and is very unlikely to stop at the borders of Ukraine. Thank you for watching my video. I'm a psychiatrist. I'm also interested in philosophy and public policy and politics. I aim to make a number of videos about these subjects, and particularly the intersection between them. If you're able to like and subscribe to this channel, then it'll really help, and also put in some comments whenever you can. That'll really help the algorithm. It'll really help promote this channel to other people. Now, beyond that, we are all, unfortunately, at the behest of a very small number of people who seem to run everything these days. And we are all at the whim of a tech oligarch who could decide tomorrow to end a channel like this because it's not in their favor. And because of that, I've set up a kind of email newsletter, which you can subscribe to. At the top of the channel, you'll see a web address. Please go there and subscribe to my newsletter. That way you can stay in touch with the videos I'm making. At least we can keep the content flowing. So I hope you can do that. And I hope we can keep talking and also gain clarity, not just about what's happening right now, but how we can get through this, how we can improve things to make a better tomorrow together. Thank you.